I was at a conference a month or two ago where one of the supplement company experts was telling us that a lot of studies were coming out of Europe where ashwagandha is getting a lot of bad press. So a lot of people were getting admitted to hospitals and they were complaining of having taken ashwagandha and their health being deteriorated in some fashion. Did they consult a proper practitioner, an Ayurvedic expert before taking them? No. They just took this adaptogen and fingers crossed that it was what they needed. But this is when I go back to saying just don't take any supplement just because of popularity. Take it either one because you need it, and two, find out if your body can even assimilate this adaptogen and or supplement, and if you even need it.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Lalwani Lounge. Today we have with us an Ayurvedic counselor, certified Ayurvedic counselor, Shama Lightwala. Hey Shama, welcome to the lounge. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. So you know where I'm going to start this podcast at, right?
Yes, I do.
My favorite, Ashwagandha. So I remember we had this chat I think a couple of months ago about how in the bodybuilding community or the fitness community you have one of these things where you have the Ayurvedic herb Ashwagandha, which is very popular. And it's a supplement that's usually taken to reduce muscle fatigue or help with endurance, help with physical strength, help with reducing cortisol in the body, pushing testosterone higher, and so many other things. And I remember you gave me like a 30-minute lecture on it. Would you like to repeat that, please?
I would love to repeat that. So yes, as you mentioned, ashwagandha is very popular, especially in the fitness community, but also actually has gained popularity throughout the world. And so ashwagandha, the root of the word, so ashwa means horse and gandha means the scent. So the herb essentially has the scent of the horse and also the performance of a horse from gaining muscle strength, all of these things, right? But there are certain people who actually do not benefit from taking ashwagandha, and Ayurveda does not recommend people to take ashwagandha by itself. So it should always be taken with something. So it should be taken either with milk, with honey, with something else that balances the heat of ashwagandha, because ashwagandha is a very heating herb. So for example, if you have pimples, if you have acne, if you have hair loss, all of these things are generated because you have a lot of heat in your body. And ashwagandha further produces more heat in the body. So if you're a pitta dosha, which is a person who has a lot of heat inside their body, it actually does more harm than good. So ashwagandha is not recommended for everybody. And you also have a lot of pitta in your body. So I would not recommend people just blindly taking this supplement.
So when you say this dosha, what do you mean by this dosha?
So at the fundamental level, there are 5 energies that exist in the world. There is space, air, ether, fire, and water. Okay? So everything in the world is made up of these 5 elements. And all the human body is also made of the same 5 elements. And these 5 elements are broken down into 3 doshas. So each person has all 3 doshas, but they're predominant in one or the other. And those are vata, pitta, and kapha.
Okay, so these 3 types of doshas, what are they? Like when you say vata dosha or pitta dosha or kapha dosha, what do you actually mean by these doshas?
So I'm glad you asked. So vata, like I mentioned, the 5 elements, and those in Ayurveda are called the pancha mahabhutas, which is the 5 elements. And vata is air and space. So it's mainly the air element. So if you see someone who's, we call them air-headed, for example, they're predominant in vata dosha. And then we have pitta, which is the heat element. So that's predominant in the fire quality. So if you see someone who gets angry really easily, they have a lot of redness in their skin, they have rosacea, though they have a lot of pitta, a lot of heat in their body, they also could have a lot of acidity. So that person predominantly has either out of balance in that fire element or has a lot of that element to begin with. So that's Pitta. And then the third one is Kapha dosha, which is a lot of earth and water, right? So that's someone who's born with like big muscle mass. They have big bones. They're not overweight, but they're big structured, right? And you can just tell they're very calm. They're very loving. They're very nurturing. We call them teddy bears in general. Those are the Kapha dosha. So that is what I mean by the 3 doshas.
And you say ashwagandha, the one that's causing so much heat in your body. So the one that has the fire dosha.
The Pitta dosha.
Yeah. So they're the ones that should
avoid it.
Avoid it altogether?
And if they don't avoid it, that's okay. But they should talk to a practitioner so that they can know what to balance it with. They can still take it, but they need to balance it with something more cooling, which is kind of balancing the fire quality that's in it. If they're adamant to take ashwagandha, talk to someone who can help you balance that. But Ayurveda is such a particular individualistic science that everyone deals with certain things individually. And if you want to take a supplement, you have to make sure that it's not interfering with your predominant dosha.
Okay, so I remember you told me that I was fire dosha, right? So what would you recommend me? Because if it is heating, then it affects the fire dosha the most, right?
Correct.
The pitta dosha the most. So then what should somebody with pitta dosha actually do about it? Or how can somebody actually know that they're a specific dosha? Like, it's a 2-part question.
Yes.
So I don't know which one you want to pick first, and
Yeah, so let's attack you need to know which dosha you are. And dosha is actually also a word that's used incorrectly many times. What you are born with innately is called your prakriti. Your prakriti meaning your nature, which does not change throughout your life. What happens is that your prakriti, let's say, for example, I told you are vata and pitta prakriti. You have both of those that are predominant, right? But that's not a dosha. Dosha is when one of your qualities is out of balance. So if vata is out of balance, that is called a dosha or an imbalance. So prakriti is something you're born with. Dosha is one of that element is out of balance and you need to bring it back into balance.
Okay. Oh, so dosha is like the
imbalance.
The Sanskrit dosh.
Correct.
That's where that comes from. Oh,
yes.
Which is fault, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And in Ayurveda, which means imbalance.
Imbalance. Okay. And you can actually bring this dosha back into balance.
Correct. And to answer your question about how, if you have pitta dosha, which you have both, you have vata and pitta, right? So you want to make sure, let's say, for example, you're eating a lot of chips. And chips, by nature, they have a lot of crunch in them, which means they have a lot of air quality. If you are a vata person and you're eating a lot of fried foods, a lot of chips, you are further feeding that air quality. And then it's possible that that goes out of balance. So in order to offset that, you need to eat more oils or more ghee or more like something that's unctuous and something that's going to be having that nourishing quality in your body to offset the vata. So if you're a pitta person, like you asked me in your question, what you can do with the fire element of ashwagandha is offset it with something more cooling. So what are cooling things that we have? Buttermilk is cooling. Aloe is cooling. Cucumbers, watermelon. These are all cooling. Coconut water. These are all things that are cooling that you can do to balance your pitta dosha and bring it back into balance.
Okay, so is there like a table somewhere that I can look at, like, hey, if this goes out of balance, these are some of the things that you could try?
I'm sure ChatGPT could help you with that.
Of course, ChatGPT.
But no, so that's where the coaches and the counselors and the practitioners come in, right? So you can talk to these Ayurvedic experts and they can tell you what your dosha is, because remember, as we talked about, your prakriti is one thing, but if it's gone out of balance, it's now a dosha. And how do you bring that dosha back into balance is where you need that help of a practitioner or a certified expert.
So which which is why you're here.
Yes.
My
of course.
personal certified expert.
Yes. Yes.
Right? This is why
Of
we're
course.
friends.
Yeah, exactly.
So that you can help me fix my doshas, and then in the process, help whoever else
I'm happy
is
to.
listening to this.
Of course. I
right?
would love to.
So yes. So if somebody's pitta dosha, you said the cooling agents would be buttermilk and
coconut water, aloe, cucumbers, watermelon, all of these things are cooling. The thing that I don't want people to get confused with is just because something is cold does not mean it's cooling. So ice, for example, just because a beverage is cold doesn't mean that it's cooling for you. And that's where the misconception comes in is milk. If you drink milk and it's cold, you might feel that it's cooling, but it's actually not. So just be careful of using the word cooling, meaning the same thing as cold.
Okay. And I'm pretty sure all of this information, well, apart from ChatGPT, should also be available, but people need to just be mindful of the
Absolutely.
fact, like, okay, but what are the signs that, hey, how do I know if there is an imbalance in my body?
So your body, so Ayurveda is a very intuitive science. So for example, let's say you're starting to get really dry skin. You have dry hands, you have brittle hair. That means that your vata has gone out of balance because vata is air and space. So by nature, it's dry. But if you're feeling that in your skin, your hair, you're feeling, I need to put a lot more lotion on than usual. My hair is really drying out and it's falling. Things like that, that means your vata has gone out of balance. Now, if you're feeling a lot of pimples coming on, you're having a lot of acidity, you have, a lot of anger is manifesting, that means your pitta has gone out of balance because of that fire element showing up as redness, as pimples, as acne, in your nature, things like that. And kapha is, the more loving and the nurturing people. So if you're feeling very, very lazy and you can't get out of bed and you're just, sitting, being a couch potato, that means your kapha is either you're predominantly your kapha quality, so you need to move your body, or that your kapha is increasing and has gone out of balance.
Okay. So basically these are some of the ways that you can find out, like, there are things out of balance and I need to do something to bring them back to normal.
Yes. And your body will tell you if you're feeling sluggish, if you're feeling like lethargy, you're feeling lazy, you're feeling angry. These are all signs that something is wrong and you need to address it as soon as possible.
Right. Okay. And what happens if my masala dosha goes out of balance?
What is that exactly?
It's like when I've not had enough masala dosa in a week.
Oh my goodness. So I remember you making this joke when we first started talking about doshas, and you sent me an Instagram message saying your favorite dosha is
masala dosha.
Oh my goodness. I'm scarred for life.
I'm sorry. It was right there to take. Come on.
It was.
Come on. It was a funny
and
joke. You're still laughing about it.
I sure am. Oh God.
But yeah, so coming back to ashwagandha.
Yes.
You know that's my favorite.
Your favorite herb.
Favorite herb.
Adaptogen. Yes.
So because I've also read multiple scientific studies about ashwagandha helping in anxiety, helping in relieving stress, reducing cortisol in the body.
Sure.
And so, and we also already talked about the fact that we have pitta that might go out of balance,
mm-hmm.
and then when we kind of balance it out, then can ashwagandha still help with anxiety and stress without causing any other discomfort of any way?
Yes, ashwagandha is a great herb. It is one of the most revered herbs in Ayurveda, as long as it's taken appropriately and it's taken in a way that's not going to cause anything to go out of balance. So especially pitta. So yes, you can take it at bedtime. A lot of people take it to get better sleep. You can take it with milk. You can add a little bit of nutmeg with it, and it makes it a bit cooling. So you can take ashwagandha in all these ways. You can improve strength with it, vitality. It has a host of benefits that you can have because it is an adaptogen, right? But just make sure you are seeking guidance, not just taking it by itself, just because it's good for you, just popping ashwagandha. That's not the right way to take it. And that's when Ayurveda does not recommend single supplements at all. They should be balanced with other herbs.
Okay. So when you talk about supplements, there are so many supplements out there, especially in the fitness industry, right? And you have BCAAs going around, you have creatine going around, you have of course the most popular protein supplements going around. Do you think that they also affect the doshas in a certain way that will put them out of balance?
So let me try to explain this in a different scenario, in a different light. So let's say you're sitting in your home and your doorbell rings. You go to the door and there's a friend, a relative, a family member, someone you know and love at the door. What is your reaction?
Why are you here?
Well, most people's reaction would be of joy, right? There's someone familiar at the door and you're greeting them and you're happy that they're there and you hug them and you invite them in. Please come into my home. I know you, right? On the flip side, the doorbell rings and there's a stranger at your door that you don't know. Your reaction would be immediately, you're taken aback. You don't know who that is. You don't know how to work with them. You don't know what to do. The same thing happens when you put anything in your body that comes not from nature, that is away from nature, that is made in a lab, that is your body has no idea who this stranger is that you're putting into your body. And one works by rejecting it or not digesting it properly, which results in what in Ayurveda we call ama, which you may want to call maybe similar to a toxin. And it manifests in forming diseases. So you want to make sure whatever you're putting into the body is coming from Mother Nature.
Okay, so what if this stranger shows up at my door every day at 9 a.m. right after I come from my gym, and then he's like, "Hey, I can help in some muscle recovery," and he comes every day. At what point does my body stop rejecting it and trying to be like, "Hey,
yes,
what's up?"
So if you're talking specifically about ashwagandha, it comes from nature. But your body just, depending on what dosha is out of balance, it may or may not assimilate it properly, right? And you're still not, hence, digesting it properly, and it could lead to issues. And if it's a complete stranger, for example, any of the other supplements that you mentioned that don't come from Mother Nature, don't come from our environment, those things will definitely cause issues long term. They may help you short term, and you may feel great, phenomenal short term, but long term will have negative impacts on your health.
Okay, but as far as I know, whey protein comes from Mother Nature. Pea protein comes from Mother Nature. So these protein supplements do come from Mother Nature. You do have BCAAs, which is like a broken down amino acid. That also comes from Mother Nature. So I'm guessing that would not be as much of an issue.
So let's think of things that we take in as food, right? If you have a bucket of lentils in front of you, would you make a powder out of them and eat them as protein supplements? No. You would actually soak them and you would cook them so that your body now knows what it is and knows how to assimilate it. So you're not going to just pop the powder and your body's immediately going to know what it is. You want to cook it. Similarly, in Ayurveda, the principle is you want to cook mostly every food that you eat, because raw food in the long run is harmful to your body and, again, causes ama in your body if not digested properly. So think of everything that you cook on your stove. the amount of time it takes to cook on your stove is the amount of time it takes to cook in your stomach or to get digested in your stomach. So for example, shellfish takes a long time to cook shellfish and hence stays in your system for a very, very long time. And you never know if you're properly digesting it or how is that getting assimilated. So raw salads is an example. The general consensus in thinking is that raw salads are amazing for you. And yes, while in small quantities on your plate, they may be good, but just having a meal of raw salads is actually not a good idea. And it's not advised because your body has to work a lot harder to digest raw foods. And if your digestion isn't great and you don't have that digestive fire that can break it down very quickly, which a lot of us don't these days, then that just gets turned into toxins and it will long-term vitiate your vata dosha because raw vegetables innately have a lot of vata in them because they're crunchy, they're not cooked, right? So when you cook them, you make them unctuous. You cook them with oil and good fats or ghee, right? Ghee is the best thing you can cook with. When you cook them with the things that make it unctuous, then your body knows how to digest it. So raw foods are a no-no.
Okay. Interesting. Because, you have these raw vegans that
correct
that talk about like raw food for the next 100 days or raw food this, raw food that.
Yes.
So what do you also feel about undercooked meat then?
Well, I am for the most part a vegetarian. So, Ayurveda is not against eating meat. A lot of times to gain strength or to bring someone back to proper health, they do recommend bone broth and things like that. So it is not a vegetarian or vegan science by any means. But I don't consume meat, but that is definitely, meat should be consumed in small quantities in the first place because your body does not need as much protein as you're told that it needs. So on a plate, majority should be a vegetable or a medley of vegetables and then a little bit of meat, but your majority of your plate should not consist of meat anyway. And if you are consuming it, make sure it's cooked properly.
Okay. Interesting. I remember you were talking about these various studies that are coming out of Europe that debunk a lot of things that we currently know or currently is popularized.
Yes.
Can you tell me something a little more about
so I was at a conference a month or two ago where one of the supplement company experts was telling us that a lot of studies were coming out of Europe where ashwagandha is getting a lot of bad press, your favorite herb, adaptogen. So a lot of people were getting admitted to hospitals and they were complaining of having taken ashwagandha and their health being deteriorated in some fashion. So did they consult a proper practitioner, an Ayurvedic expert before taking them? No, they just took this adaptogen and fingers crossed that it was what they needed. But this is when I go back to saying, just don't take any supplement just because of popularity. Take it either one, because you need it, and two, find out if your body can even assimilate this adaptogen or supplement, and if you even need it. But talk to an expert, talk to a practitioner so you don't make your health worse, if not better.
Okay, so since you've mentioned this about 200 times, what is an adaptogen?
So an adaptogen is something that, let's say, for example, like ashwagandha or brahmi is a good example, right? If you need focus, an adaptogen is something that will know that this is what you need in the moment and work to give you exactly that. So it works and adapts with your body. So for example, there are a few adaptogens, like ashwagandha is definitely one of them. Brahmi, which is another herb, is an adaptogen as well. What they do is they identify what your need is and then they work accordingly. So for example, like I told you before, ashwagandha a lot of people take to sleep, but then it also helps with gaining muscle strength, gaining memory, concentration, opposite of sleep. Focus, sleep, two different things, right? But an adaptogen knows when to work according to your body's needs and it will facilitate that in your body.
So it's like
magic.
It's magic, right? It's like the room of requirement in like Harry Potter.
Yeah. Yes,
right?
it's exactly like magic.
One of those wands right here.
No, you just popped that out of nowhere.
Actually, yeah. the bone one too. And yeah. Part of my decor.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a
the
big
host with the most.
I'm a big Harry Potter fan.
Me too. Me too.
That's the first thing I thought about when the moment you said this. I was like,
yes.
Room of requirement.
Yes, exactly. So it is sort of nothing short of magic, but again, it comes with a price. So you want to make sure you're taking it appropriately. There's a reason why it's popular. There's a reason why it works for so many people, but there are also a host of people it doesn't work for, and that's where we want to avoid because we don't want to cause any harm to anyone. Ayurveda's principle is never cause harm to a person by taking anything that they shouldn't be taking.
So you did mention Brahmi as the other magic.
Yes.
What is this Brahmi?
So Brahmi is one of my favorite supplements actually, and it works for majority. It's a tridoshic, which means it's good for each of the three doshas. And it's something that can help with hair fall. It's used in a lot of hair oils. It's something that can help it can give you good skin. It's pretty much a leaf that you can also consume. A lot of people take Brahmi capsules, which is just Brahmi powder. And you can take that instead of ashwagandha to sleep. I would recommend people, again, consult with your physician and your practitioner, but I would take Brahmi to either focus, improve your memory, but also to sleep.
So I know a lot of people either take CBD or magnesium supplements to fall asleep.
Right.
Would this then kind of reduce their ability to will this kind of reduce their requirement to take magnesium or CBD?
Absolutely. If you take Brahmi, again, everything works with consistency. If you take it consistently for a number of days, you will see it working with your body because it takes 4 weeks or more for something to work, right? So if you take it consistently, you will see an impact and you will not need any of the lab-made supplements per se.
Okay. Because what I usually do is, I read this study long back that your brain needs to, drop its temperature at least 2 to 3 degrees lower than the rest of your body for your body to actually start falling asleep. So what I usually do is I take a hot shower before bed and then just use, the body's ability, the body's requirement to get equilibrium, and my brain drops temperature and fast asleep.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I can't actually sleep without showering. So it's impossible for me to fall asleep without a shower. And that's an interesting study. But mainly what you want to do before you sleep is calm your mind, right? And Brahmi and hence ashwagandha help you do that. Or, they're supposed to. So.
Yeah, and also not have screens next to your bed.
Yes. These days, though, that is such a big ask, but absolutely. I would say at least an hour, if not more, before you go to bed. Stay away from the screens. Listen to something that relaxes your mind. Or, anulom vilom, which is alternate nostril breathing, is amazing to calm the mind and fall asleep.
Nice. I usually end up reading a book or something, before going to bed. I think that kind of, I complete a lot of books in the process. And at the same time, I'm one of those people right from childhood. If I open a book and I flip a page, I start falling asleep.
Oh, wow. You love reading.
A lot. I love light reading.
Understood.
Very light. So I do 1 page a day.
Oh my. Yes.
And then I just fall asleep in the binding of my book.
Yes. As long as you're not stimulating your brain, I think that kind of, something that everyone's different, right? What works for me may not work for you. For me, deep breathing works the best. And there's also something called yoga nidra, which is a type of music that, you can YouTube or search in Google for yoga nidra, Nidra. And it's a wonderful way to fall asleep.
Okay. I know some people also do some kind of meditation or, various techniques to avoid getting your brain distracted all the time and, letting your thoughts flow instead of, just following every single thought through its entire life.
Yes.
And then being distracted the entire time.
Yes.
So, I mean, I do understand there's like, some herbs that can help you. But do you think that all of Ayurveda also depends on the person actually, either following a regimen or following, certain rules or, guidelines or, assisting the herb, or is the herb assisting them in trying to achieve what they're trying to achieve?
That's an excellent question. And in Ayurveda, there is something called dinacharya, which means daily routine. And it starts the moment you wake up, right? And the idea is not so much, you mentioned supplements and herbs. The idea is not so much to depend on supplements and herbs, but let your intuition guide you and do those things that are good for you that will lead to the good habits that you're referring to, and you won't need anything to fall asleep. You'll automatically fall asleep. And what is dinacharya? It's daily rituals that are mentioned in the samhitas, in the books, right? And so the daily rituals start with when you wake up. What do? Right? You wake up, you go to the bathroom. The most important principle of Ayurveda is all diseases manifest themselves because of poor digestion. Your digestion, if it's weak, will result in disease formation. So the number one thing you want to do is make sure that digestion is at the best that it can be. How do you do that? You want to have a routine. You want to eat at the same time every day. You want to sleep at the same time every day. You want to consume your meals at least 3 hours before you sleep, because it takes about that long for your food to get digested. And if you fall asleep without that food being digested, then ama, again, the toxins that we referred to before, can form. And ama is what results in diseases. So from the moment you wake up, there are things you can do. Like you can oil pull, you brush your teeth, you empty your bowels. Most important, you have to empty your bowels every day. Cannot stress how important that is, right? Look at your bowels, see how they are, because like in Ayurveda, we have specific descriptions for how your bowels are. If it's in a banana shape and it's floating on top of the water, that's the best kind of bowel you can have. If it's pellets, then you have indigestion. If it's diarrhea, again, you need to fix your digestion. So your stools are the number one way to figure out whether your digestion is on point or does it need help. And if it's not, if it smells a certain way, if it's not great, then you need to seek that help immediately, because that will be the number one reason for anything going wrong. Then once you wake up, you drink, enough water, maybe 2-3 glasses, whatever you can do, but warm water. Cold water is not recommended anytime during the day or really ever. So what cold things do to your digestive system is they give it a little shock and they impair your digestion. So let's say you have a fire burning and you put water on it. What happens? That fire goes down, right? And then it takes a little bit of time to come back up. So that's not recommended. You wake up, you do all these things. In dinacharya, what you have to do in the morning that's recommended is you wake up, you go to the bathroom, you empty your bowels, you brush your teeth, you drink water, you do abhyanga. Abhyanga is body massage. Very, very crucial to make sure, I'll give you an analogy, for example, since you love cars. So what happens if, a part in a car is squeaking and it's making sounds? What do? You oil it. Same concept applies with our bones and everything within our body. We want to make sure that we oil it so that that part keeps running the best that it can and as long as it can. So abhyanga, what you do is you take sesame oil or any kind of oil that you like, coconut oil, whatever, but sesame oil works for all body types, all doshas. So you take sesame oil, you warm it in your hands, or you can warm it any way you like. And then you kind of rub it all over your body. especially giving attention to your joints. So you want to do a circular motion in your joints to make sure you lubricate them. Circular motion on your knees, on your ankles. Majority of your joints you want to rub circularly. And then the rest of your body you want to oil. And then you can go for a workout or you can go out in the sun, because having oil on your body helps you that vitamin D absorption. So once you have that applied, go out, go for a run, go for a walk in the morning and get your workout done.
So is this why, our grandparents applied all of these mustard oils on their joints?
Yes. Yes. And if you think about bodybuilders, they apply tons of oil on their body and then they exercise. Why? To avoid injury. Because when your muscles are lubricated and your joints are lubricated, one, there is lymphatic drainage going on in your body. So you help the lymphatic drainage. Two, you're lubricated so that you don't cause injury to your body when you work out. So oiling your body, I'll tell you a couple of things that are critical, and this is definitely one of them. And Abhyanga is also called self-love.
Okay, interesting. So I see that you did mention that, you have this routine every morning. Mm-hmm. I think my parents had this routine, and I just followed their routine, which is now my routine. But I do believe that, you could make a routine if you have proper discipline.
Absolutely.
So I'm guessing that discipline also plays into this holistic approach to what you're talking about.
Yes. And discipline is a work in progress for me as well. We're not all perfect, right? Discipline is something that is crucial, though, as far as your meal. Like you were asking me about, how can you make sure your system is running at its best capacity? It is important when it comes to meal times. It is important that if you eat at 12 o'clock every day, you eat at the same time the next day and the day after. Within 1 hour is okay to go here or there. 45 minutes to an hour. Let's say you eat at 12:45. Fine, as long as you're within that 1 hour range. But make sure you eat at that exact same time every day, because then what happens is that your body knows that food is coming at that time, and it's ready with its digestive juices, and then is ready to produce the saliva. And also don't be distracted by gadgets, because then your saliva is not getting produced because you're not smelling it, or your senses are not involved. So that timing is so critical to make sure that your stomach is ready with that digestive juice every day at the same time. Because now if your times are varied, it never knows when it's coming, and it's not going to sit there just waiting for the food to come and have all your digestive juices right there to go. So make sure that that's going every day at the same time. Also critical. And again, try to eat with your hands. The forks and knives are great when you're not trying to be messy, or at a business dinner, you can't really bust out your fingers, right? And be all messy. But as much as you can, when you're home, when you're comfortable with the company that you're with, just eat with your fingers. The reason our ancestors and we did that before is because your fingers have nerve endings. The nerve endings send a signal to your brain and your stomach what kind of texture is coming, so that the saliva and the juices in your stomach get produced accordingly. So there's a lot of science behind why we eat with our hands.
Wow. It just tastes better to me.
And it tastes better. It's a bonus.
Right? So, you have your eyes, your nose, your tongue, and your skin all talking to each other, saying like, this is exactly how it's supposed to. Exactly. What the taste is.
Yes.
Right?
All your senses are engaged.
Right. I never thought about digestion being a part of this.
It's a huge part of eating with our hands. Huge part, because the texture of the food, how much food, what it needs to be prepared for, is all saliva production. It's all connected.
Wow. That's interesting. Yeah. If I were to ask you, like, hey, how do I improve my digestion without knowing that that's what's messed up. Like if I don't know that that's what's
Yes,
messed up,
yes.
like how do I make sure that there are some practices that I'm consistently doing, that even if there is a dosha somewhere or something goes out of balance, that it fixes itself because I am doing something to make it right.
Sure. And that's a good point. How do you know that your digestion is not on point or needs help, right? You will know, one, like I mentioned, if you're not going to the bathroom regularly or even first thing in the morning, you will know that something is not right. If the stool formations are not perfectly as we described, you will know that my digestion is not proper. If you're eating the food and it's just, you feel heavy for the next 2 hours or more, and it's just sitting there and you're feeling sluggish, and you're like, oh, I just ate lunch, but like it's almost dinner time and I'm still not feeling like I'm hungry. Your digestion is not properly working, right? All of these are signs that your digestion is poor. How can you fix this? So there are a lot of things you can do. You can sip cumin, coriander, fennel tea throughout the day. So you can take, one teaspoon of each of these and fill up your cup or jug or whatever with warm water and hot water if you like, and you can sip that throughout the day. That will help your digestion. You can take ginger powder. Dry ginger powder is amazing to help with digestion. And if you're still feeling like your digestion is not, well, and it's not taking up, then you can eat little pieces of ginger and you can, take a little bite throughout your meal. What you don't want to do is before you eat, at least 30 minutes before you eat, you don't want to consume water. And at least an hour after you eat, you don't want to consume water. Why? The same principle that I mentioned before. When you put water, it dampens the digestive fire. You don't want to do it before, and you definitely don't want to do it after. Throughout the meal, if you think you need water, have warm water with you, and you can take little sips here and there. But water is a no-no because, again, digestion just does not work well with it. So dry ginger powder, CCF, and my favorite supplement that I take daily before bed is Triphala. Triphala is a combination of 3 fruits, amalaki, which is my favorite if you follow me ever. Amalaki, haritaki, and vibitaki are the 3. You're going to make a joke, aren't you?
I will not.
Oh my goodness. And these are the 3 fruits that Triphala is made of. And this is something that everyone can take. And I would recommend that everyone takes this on a daily basis. I take it right before bed, but you can also take it when you wake up. And just make sure it's a capsule form, because that's the best way that I've taken it. You can also take a powder, but I'm too lazy to mix it up every day. So that is one supplement that will help your digestion as well.
So then the question is, like you said, that you shouldn't be, pressuring your digestive system at least for 3 hours before bed. Mm-hmm. And then you take something before going to bed, which your body is still going to try to digest. So how does that play out?
Good question. So Triphala actually works while you're asleep. So it works on, if you have had something that's, been less than 3 hours before you slept, then it's kind of like cleaning out your body as you're sleeping. So it's a cleaning agent, and it's not trying to digest it while you sleep, but it works in your body as you're sleeping, and it won't make it form into an ama. And that's something that's recommended in the books as well.
Okay. And where do we find these books?
You have to go to school for them. But there's Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, and Atharva Veda. These are all Vedas that this knowledge comes from. There's also Charak Samhita that this knowledge comes from. Dinacharya is actually recommended and spoken of in Charaka Samhita. So there are all these books that the knowledge is derived from, and once you learn it, it's just with you for life.
So what you're saying is that the Vedas actually have all of this knowledge.
Correct.
So this kind of dates back to the Hindu culture, right?
Yes.
So the Vedas are Hindu.
I don't know if I feel comfortable putting a religion on Ayurveda. It is a science. I don't know if I would put Hinduism as a stamp on Ayurveda because it is a universal science. So, I mean, you can if you want to, but I would say it's something that is a science that is of mankind and not of a particular religion.
Okay, so how about I change or rephrase it to, is it Indian then?
It is Indian. It does come from India. And I would say it is an Indian science, but do we want to make it for everybody? Because it's such a vast knowledge that's helpful to whether you're Indian or not. Yes. I think this is something that is like the traditional Chinese medicine or anything that's holistic that we all know of and we know that it works. It's not just, it's not just because it's Chinese medicine, it doesn't work for us. It works for everyone. And it's such a intuitive science that the more people know, the more they'll benefit from it.
Nice. So it's just like the Kama Sutra. just like how we, spread the knowledge of Kama Sutra everywhere.
Wow.
That's what we're doing with Ayurveda.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
Right. Because I think even Kama Sutra is a Veda.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to just say no comment on that one.
I think it is kind of, teaching you.
Yes,
I'm just saying.
Yes.
But
and Ashwagandha probably goes really well with it.
See?
Yeah.
There you go. There's a connection between
there you go.
Ayurveda and Kama Sutra. Both of them Indian arts.
Never thought this day would come, but here it is.
That's what she said.
Oh my.
I had to. It was right there. It was right there to take.
And you took it, as you usually do.
I did. Okay, coming back to a very, very important question.
Yes. Shoot.
So how does alcohol play a role in what it does to the body versus what Ayurveda recommends, or does it even recommend like, hey, are you even allowed to have alcohol if you're having these XYZ things along with it? Just like, there are some medicines that you cannot have alcohol with because, it puts a lot of pressure on your liver.
Right.
Does Ayurvedic medicine or anything that, like, I wouldn't just say just the medicine, but, things that like supplements or something that we're doing to enhance our current lifestyle.
Right.
Does alcohol fit in any way in this, or does Ayurveda have a way in which you can reduce the effects, or reduce the bad effects, not the good ones, but reduce the bad effects of alcohol and especially a hangover?
I have not read anything or studied anything so far about alcohol and its impacts, but I know that in some of the medicinal prescriptions, red wine especially, is administered when needed. So I know red wine is part of it, but specific to alcohol, I'm not sure if it's recommended or what is recommended. And as far as the ill effects of alcohol, and now that is caused with a lot of acidity kind of building up in your body, right? So what can you do that's anti-acidic? So with alcohol hangovers and things like that, as we all know, we need to get electrolytes back in our body. So again, coconut water is something that you can do to remedy that situation. Coconut water works wonderfully for even dehydration in general, but also is great for your skin and hair. So I drink coconut water daily. But coconut water is something that can help with the hangover. Lemon water. Lemon is alkaline. So having lemon water can also help you if you want to put a little bit of honey in it, but it has to be warm water that you can stick your pinky in, because honey is not to be had with anything hot. So those are some of the things you can do.
Okay. I remember you mentioning bone broth. Mm-hmm. And someone recently told me that bone broth also helps in, it's like one of the hangover cures.
Okay.
I thought maybe you were going to mention it. And I was just waiting for you to say bone broth.
Bone broth is something that is administered, but it has to be something that you're trying to address. So not related to alcohol. But something that, if you're trying to cure someone, then bone broth is administered in certain situations. But I wouldn't think alcohol is one of them.
Okay, well, you found another thing that you can use bone broth for.
Well, let me know how that works.
but I'm somebody that my favorite is liquid IV.
Yes.
Put in a bottle.
Stranger in your body. Here we go again.
15 minutes and so many electrolytes.
Well, have you tried coconut water?
No.
Well, there is a reason to have it in your fridge.
Okay.
Or outside.
Okay. Because I have like this big pack of 40 liquid IV sachets that I got from Costco.
Yes, I know. That is so popular. And I know that it works for so many people. But again, I would recommend, if it's not a regular occurrence, once in a while, it's not going to harm you. But if it's on a more regular, more frequent occurrence, even monthly, then I would suggest to get something that's more natural.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. And if it comes to, so sometimes the headache is too bad, right? And you pop a Advil,
yes,
or something like that,
yes,
right? So do you recommend that being one of the ways that you can get like a short-term relief, and does like these common medicines or like regular medicinal practices or anything of that sort, does that go well with the Ayurvedic way of treating things? So can we combine common medicine with Ayurvedic medicine?
Very good question. I 100% would recommend to combine. If you are going through something and you are seeking that help from, a doctor or a medical expert, I would 100% say side by side, you can do Ayurvedic, Ayurvedic supplemental help to go along with whatever you're trying to recover from. And it works wonderfully, but just don't do it without any professional guidance. Don't do it without a practitioner, a coach, a counselor, a doctor. Just make sure you have an expert that's guiding you, because the medicines that you're taking from, the doctor that is prescribing them, you need to make sure that the Ayurvedic counterpart is not going to interfere with those medicines. And there are a lot of ways to do that, but you need to work with a professional.
So question. So if I'm already on some kind of modern medicine,
mm-hmm.
right? For a disease,
mm-hmm.
will the Ayurvedic specialist know that these kind of drugs are going to cause these kind of effects? So will the Ayurvedic person know, or will my physician know that, if you're eating 4 different kinds of leaves a day, then you should avoid these drugs, or just don't have basil for the next 12 days, or don't have neem or any other herb.
Yeah, look at you with your neem popping out of there. Yes, so no, your physician will not know. And unless they've studied Ayurveda in depth, they will not know what complements and what doesn't. The Ayurvedic doctor or Ayurvedic practitioner will know what and how will it interfere, what to avoid, what to give you. These are all things that they will be able to guide you with, especially the diet. When you're not well, like I mentioned, digestion has to be at its best. And when you're sick and when you're taking a lot of these medicines, again, your liver is taxed. So your digestion is dampened. So how do you kind of supercharge your digestion? Only the Ayurvedic expert, the practitioner, the doctor will know how to guide you. And that is something I would recommend. The diet, the lifestyle, the remedies that they're going to prescribe, the prescriptions, the medicines that the Ayurvedic doctor or practitioner will give you, the normal modern medicine expert will not know.
So what you're saying is that the Ayurvedic practitioner might know about modern medicine, but not the other way around.
Correct.
Okay.
Because in the coursework, we have to study how modern medicine works. What is the terminology? What are the medicines? All of that is studied and comprehended by the Ayurvedic side of the practice.
Okay. So then when it comes to internal medicine, so internal medicine is also a holistic approach. And Ayurvedic medicine is also a holistic approach. So is there a difference between both of them, or how are they different and how are they similar?
So what do you mean by internal medicine?
So functional medicine, I should have said functional medicine instead of internal medicine. Okay. So the functional medicine and Ayurveda both are like focusing on like diet, practices and discipline and routines. So I don't know if you know a lot about functional medicine, and if it is similar to Ayurvedic practices, or if it is different, because both claim to be holistic approaches.
Okay, so what would be an example of a functional medicine?
Good question.
Then I can tell you further, but I don't know.
One of my friends actually, went through this whole process where they figured out what they were actually, allergic to. Not really allergic, but what kind of foods were causing inflammation in their bodies.
Okay.
And then based on that, they changed what they were eating and how they were eating it. And then that kind of helped in eliminating certain problems from joints, from bones, from muscle. Sure. And that is what functional medicine was. So I'm guessing Ayurveda has a similar approach to finding a solution, wherein it's not like you go home, take these 5 tablets 2 times a day for the next 20 years of your life,
right?
And then just die with them.
Oh Lord!
You know what I'm talking about? Like usually, like you would have people that go to these doctors for strep throat, right? And then end up with like so many tablets, and nobody actually takes all those tablets.
I hope not.
As soon as they kind of start feeling better, they just stop, right? And like you would hear doctors say that all strep is untreated strep because nobody has taken all the medications, right? Because as soon as they start feeling better, they're just like, okay, I feel better. Even if I'm sick, or if I'm on steroids, or if I'm on like absolutely any kind of modern medicine, I stop when I start feeling better. So that instead of that, you have this Ayurvedic practice where you're like, no, you wake up, you focus on your breathing, you focus on your digestion, you focus on, what you're eating during the day, how you're eating it, what are you combining your foods with,
exactly,
and at what times are you eating, and are you consistent, are you regular, are you making sure that you're cooking your food properly, are you making sure that your food is not stale, are you making sure that they're from good sources. So all of this together would be something similar to functional medicine as well.
I would say, based on your description, I would say yes, because diet and lifestyle are the pillars to prevention of diseases. Right? Okay. So if they work in that similar fashion, I would say yes, absolutely. The root cause is something that we want to eliminate in Ayurveda. Is we don't just treat the symptoms. We want to identify the root cause and try to nip it where it starts so that it doesn't happen again. Yes, it may take some time, but like you said, you don't have to take the pill for 20 years or for however long. It takes as long as it takes to kill the root cause of the disease, and then you're good from there, as long as you're focusing on that good life and their dinacharya, like I mentioned before.
So when it comes to like prevention of diseases, like when we talk about that, like I understand like it can help with various diseases, maybe like the flu, cold, certain type of bacteria, viruses, like, if you have turmeric and that is like high on, vitamin C. No, not vitamin C, but whatever. It kind of helps.
Multitude of, yes.
Yeah, so it builds your immunity, and then you have like these fruits and vegetables that kind of help you. But to what extent? Like, can it like prevent cancer? Can it prevent, Alzheimer's? Can it help me with diabetes. They're apart from just like I would call them smaller diseases, but what about the big ones?
So did you know that the first plastic surgery was done by an Ayurvedic doctor?
No, I did not.
Yep, in the world. So Ayurveda has an arm that's dedicated to surgery. Ayurveda has an arm that's dedicated to veterinarian procedures. Even for animals, we know what to do in Ayurveda. So to answer your question, yes, all of the above. It can help with anything that you have, but again, it depends on how far it has already come, right? In some instances, even modern medicine can't help you once it's come to a certain stage. And same with Ayurveda. So that's why we say prevention is cure, because if you're doing all these things to prevent it from happening, then you don't have to go so far. But if it already has gone that far, then yes, you can absolutely work in parallel, or even in Ayurveda by itself, if you catch it at an early enough stage, can help you with all of anything that you need help with.
Okay. Because a lot of people feel like Ayurveda is like 4 herbs
Sure.
here. Like you get a bruise and then you just rub 4 leaves on it and you're done. Right? Like you would see this in various movies.
Sure.
You will see this, across popular media that, you would have this old person with a lot of leaves in a bowl.
Yes.
that this person is crushing, and then either somebody's ingesting it or it's being applied on the skin or something.
Right.
What you are saying is that that's not really how it works.
No, the power of Ayurveda is vast, and it's incomprehensible to, I know, a lot of the people that just think of it as a few herbs here and there. No, it is a deep science that is actually rooted in things that have been proven over time. And there is a reason it has been around for over 5,000 years. There is a reason that, Ayurvedic knowledge is still so revered, and it's only gaining in popularity. So the other day I was watching the show called New Amsterdam. And in New Amsterdam, you guys probably know, if you watch Hindi movies, Anupam Kher is in that show in New Amsterdam. And he is playing a doctor in the show, and he does a lot of these Ayurvedic things where he tries to find the root cause prior to treating the patient. And a lot of the physicians are, very frustrated with him because he will not treat the patient until they describe how they feel, until he finds what the root cause is. He's not just going to prescribe anything. So it's showing up a lot more in even mainstream media, and a lot of people are understanding the depths of Ayurveda. But very good point that you tried to mention just now is that it is not just a few herbs here and there to cure something, but it is a deeper science in where surgical procedures are done. Back in the day when we didn't have the proper technology, leeches were used to kind of sew the wounds as well. So, and that all was done in the Ayurvedic practice.
Okay. And I have watched New Amsterdam. Yes. Yeah. And Anupam Kher was definitely one of my favorite on the show.
He was awesome. Yes.
I think he was a neurosurgeon.
I think he was. Yeah.
Yeah. And he died season 3.
Oh no, I haven't gotten so far.
Spoiler alert.
Oh. But it's a good show.
Yeah, it's a good show. I'm sorry. Just ruined it for you.
Fine.
My bad.
It's okay.
We will kind of steer away from the spoiler.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And we bring it back. There are some things that I've recently noticed being very popular here in the United States where, something that my grandma used to tell me to do, or something that, has been a family tradition for a while. One of them is, turmeric latte, which is like, like what we call haldi doodh,
yes.
Right? My question is like, does this mean that, like more and more people are now opening up to the possibility of actually using herbs and spices, which we as Indians already do in our food, right? So for a lot of us, we already have our chili powder, we have our, turmeric, we have our ginger, we have our garlic. All of these are like primary ingredients that we put in our food anyways. So do you think that that kind of helped us over the years without us even knowing that we were kind of using, all these good properties from these places into our diet, and the reason why we did not fall sick and went to like 1.7 billion people is just because we make some good mean ass curry?
Oh my. Yes, actually, that's a good point that you're.
Years without us even knowing that we were kind of using, all these good properties from these places into our diet, and the reason why we did not fall sick and went to like 1.7 billion people is just because we make some good mean ass curry.
Oh my. Yes, actually, that's a good point that you raise, is our spices. And we're not the only culture to use spices, right? A lot of Middle Eastern culture also uses kind of similar spices. And many cultures use spices to cook their food and derive benefits from it. But yes, a lot of the spices that we use, cumin powder, coriander, all of these, turmeric, black pepper, all of these things definitely boost the immunity. Dry ginger powder, or just ginger, garlic, all of these things kind of supercharge the food so that it goes in our body and it is assimilated in the right way, and not only adds flavor to the food, but it also helps us with our digestion and with our immunity. So all of these things combined, yes, they are coming more and more and more to the rest of the world, but it's not something that people were unaware of. It's just that now they're incorporating it because they see the benefits, right? So haldi doodh, yes, turmeric latte has become so popular. But then again, Ayurveda has always been a part of people's lives. If you drink lemon water in the morning, you're doing Ayurveda. If you are doing yoga is a sister science of Ayurveda. If you're doing yoga, you already know that Ayurveda exists. If you're a yoga teacher, you know about Ayurveda, and I'm sure you already know the benefits of it because a lot of yoga teachers study Ayurveda. So doing yoga is practicing Ayurveda. And yoga wasn't something that was hidden from people, though a lot of people think, yoga was a hidden practice and we discovered it. No, back in the day, yoga, this is a fun fact. So yog, as we call it, was practiced by only the learned and the knowing, in the know, right? So gurus, the yogis that practice yoga, and they wouldn't really do a group class. That was a concept that was really not known, or they wouldn't teach a group yoga because yoga is very individualistic. And why did they not want to teach people yoga? Is because if you do yoga improperly, you could injure yourself. Hence, only a handful of people could do yoga, and you had to have one-on-one learnings. You couldn't just have a class and learn yoga from a teacher. The teacher would only teach you individually because it's for your body. And your body can't do anything that the next person's body can, so you had to be customized to you. So now it's just a group class, which, I'm not sure I'm a fan of, but that's just where we are now. And hot yoga is even worse. So,
Okay, so firstly, I go to yoga classes using ClassPass.
Well, I'm glad a lot of us do. I mean, I've been to yoga classes. But what I was trying to really say, not to cut you off, is that yoga is an individual practice. And if you do go to yoga classes, just know your body's limitations so you're not injuring yourself, and make sure that the person that is teaching you is actually, has the knowledge to give you.
So what's wrong with hot yoga?
Oh my. So where to begin? Hot yoga. One, you are in an artificially heated setting that is hard to breathe in. Germs are manifesting and multiplying in that room as you are in there. Your muscles are really artificially moving around because of that temperature that's rising. And it's the 90-minute session, especially, I mean, if you do it for, let's say, a few minutes is okay, but that long of a session to be in an artificially heated room is not good long term for your body.
Okay. So then,
and especially for your respiratory system.
Okay.
Because it's drying.
Interesting. So then what do you think about saunas? So I know sauna is dry heat, and then you have like the steam, which is like actually using steam to heat, right?
Yes.
So so what are your thoughts on both of them?
I am not a fan of dry heat, but sauna for 5 minutes, 10 minutes is okay. Anything longer than that, I would recommend being in there, because you're just artificially drying out your body at that point.
But in a steam, you have so much moisture going around, and you have like you're sweating like crazy, which is still like not kind of drying out.
Yes, but okay. So let's talk about the sweating part, right? So this is an interesting fact that I think being a workout junkie, you would appreciate, is that what does Ayurveda recommend? How long should one work out? In the scriptures, in the Vedas, you should work out to the point where you start feeling the sweat under your armpits or on your nose or on your forehead. And then once you feel that sweat breaking out, you should stop.
Wow. That's when my workout starts.
Correct. That's exactly right. So that is the recommendation. So sweating that much also is just anything. So in Ayurveda, there is a saying called Sarva Karveshu Madhamam, which means everything in moderation. So anytime you're doing something that's excessive sweating, excessive working out, your muscles are getting fatigued, your body is exerting itself more than it should, and it's not good for long term.
So if I were to split my cardio and my weight training in 2 different days, where when I'm doing my strength training, I stop as soon as I break a sweat, and I stop my cardio another day as soon as I break a sweat, is that something that you would recommend?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. So as long as you're not, and you can go a bit more than you want once you break a sweat. If you still want to go just slightly more, sure, go for it. But don't do it a lot more than that, because then you're just going against the principles that you're just deharmonizing your body, basically.
Okay. Because a lot of literature basically talks about, warming up your muscles before you start strenuous activities,
yes,
so that you don't injure yourself, right? Basically, you want your body to naturally oil itself so that your joints are moving properly. You are, like even when we do weightlifting, we start with a lower weight and we slowly build to what our maximum is.
Right.
So how would that play in if warming up is part of my workout routine?
That's fine. So the thing that I would caution against is that a workout class that's for, let's say, for example, it's for 1 hour, it's for 40 minutes. We all sweat differently, right? So I don't sweat in 20 minutes just like you would. It takes me a lot longer to sweat than it might take the next person and the next person after that. Everyone is different. So why should we have a time constraint on anything when our bodies are going to act differently in those times, right? So when I sweat is different from when you sweat, so different from when someone else sweats. So we want to make sure we're giving ourselves enough time to do what it needs to do, and don't time yourself. As soon as you see that sweat breaking, just stop. If it's just during the warm-up, sure, just stop then. Then just do a shorter warm-up and then do everything else that you want to.
Okay. Interesting. Well, if you had to give me or everyone that's listening one advice of how they can use Ayurveda in their daily lives, what would that be?
One advice, gosh. Okay. I think the one thing that I see that's prevalent is cold beverages. I would say to stay away from cold beverages in general. So cold milk, cold water, ice water, definitely a no-no. And I just can't stop at one, so I'm going to give you 3. So
You're like a genie. I ask for 1, I get 3.
that's right. Making all the wishes come true. So no, for everyone. And this is something that I wholeheartedly believe in, to make sure that we are doing the best that we can to prevent any disease formation in our body and keeping our bodies in the best shape, and our mind, body, soul, right? Ayurveda is a holistic science. So I'm going to give you 1 for each. So the first one, I would say, along with that one that I just mentioned regarding cold beverages or cold foods, is Nasya. So Nasya is a practice that is so underrated, but it works for everything above your clavicle. So I suffered from a lot of migraines, headaches, allergies, and this single-handedly has worked its magic to eliminate all of those from my body. And that has been Nasya. It is a simple practice, literally takes like 1 or 2 minutes to do. And it helps with everything above your shoulders. So why not do it, right? It's a easy practice. You can either take ghee or sesame oil, or there's also a medicated oil called Nasya oil, or Anu Tailam, Anutailam. And you basically take 1 drop or 2 drops on your pinky and administer it into your nostrils. Just tilt your head back or lay down on your bed, administer it in your nostrils, both nostrils, 2 drops each, and then just sniff it really quickly. And so the nose is the doorway to your brain. There's no barrier from what you put into your nose, which is why we do a lot of drugs through our nose, right? Because it goes directly into our brain.
Not we.
You know what I mean. So people. So people do a lot of drugs, and that's just basically how it works. So you take the oil or ghee and you administer it. It doesn't take that long, and the benefits are insane. So Nasya would be my number 1 recommendation. Number 2 would be Abhyanga. Abhyanga is that self-love, the body massage that I mentioned, critical. And taking Triphala would be for the digestive system. Triphala daily, I would say. If everyone can take it. And you can stop after taking it for a couple of months if you feel like, you might get addicted, but it does not cause addiction, and it's good to take as a daily supplement. And here's a bonus. The 4th one is the breathing technique. So we did digestion, we did everything above the clavicle, we did the body, right? Now the mind. So breathing practice called Anulom Vilom, which is also called alternate nostril breathing. I would do this if you have time more than 5 minutes a day, but if you are restricted, then 5 minutes a day is fine. You basically just close 1 nostril, breathe through the other nostril, close the other nostril and breathe through the alternate one, and you hold. The most important thing is to hold the breaths in between. So Anulom Vilom would be the one for the mind. But there.
Lovely. Thank you. That's a lot of information.
You're
a lot of
welcome.
Good information.
Yes, I hope it helps.
Yeah. So let's land this plane then. Thank you, Shama. This has been a great podcast episode. There's a lot to learn, a lot to
digest.
Digest. You got that right. Digest. And thank you for coming on the show, and hope we can have you on here another time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure, and I hope that it helps.
Of course. All right. Ciao.
Ciao.